Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, Ron.
Excellent. It's nice seeing everyone. We have a small group, but I'm guessing we'll have a few more join. Looks like Judge Crutchley is going to join us, which will be helpful. Judge Crutchley, good afternoon. How are you? Judge, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, PJ.
Outstanding. It's nice seeing you.
Same here.
Given the time, 3:31, we'll start the meeting. And we'll start with review of June minutes. And we will simply need a motion to approve and a second if there's no objection to those minutes.
To approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Chief Lewis. Any objection to approval of the minutes? Minutes are approved. And I do not see, do we have any members of the public? It doesn't appear to be so. Very well. That will take us to item number 4, CJC Semi-Annual Adult Treatment Court Report. And Trevor, whenever you're ready, I take it you're quarterbacking this item.
I am. Thank you, Judge Ashby. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Trevor Stevens, and I'm with the Community Justice Department. And this is our last semi-annual progress report for the Adult Treatment Court. So as many of you know, we started the process to ramp down the Adult Treatment Court, and this will be the last progress report that we need to review and submit to the Criminal Justice Commission. So as of June 2023, we had 3 clients. I just checked, and we're actually down to 2 adult treatment court clients. And so we've just continued our coordination with our community partners and with the clients to really ramp down the court and just provide them with all the services that they deserve in terms of finishing out the court. And we have just been working on that for almost the past year. And we've just really worked together between the DA's office, the court, and all of our partners in just ensuring that we provide the best service we can for those clients as we continue the ramp down of our adult treatment court. So the biggest challenge that has been with this in terms of the ramp down has just been making sure that we afford those clients with everything that we had promised in the adult treatment court application. I think we've done a really good job with that, and we've really just made sure to kind of really manage that process and ensure that the shutdown of our court does not impact those clients that are still in that court, and that they can finish out as they need with that program. So in terms of the funds, the biggest challenge has been just because of the way billing is structured and with the ramp down of the process, just making sure we're able to spend those funds accordingly. And also, as I've mentioned in several times, with just the way that the Criminal Justice Commission structures their billing, it has been kind of difficult in terms of being able to bill for case management, which was one of the biggest barriers for our treatment providers that did provide this service in our community, is they just did not have a good mechanism under the grant to bill for those services. So hopefully in the new grant process moving forward, they've tried to address some of that, but that was one of our major things. We did work with the Criminal Justice Commission to make modifications as we ramp down the process, just to kind of allocate funding for certain things that maybe traditionally we wouldn't have allocated out of adult treatment court. One of those being the treatment provider who stepped in and took the place for our adult treatment court. They recently were able to host the University of Cincinnati to come in and do a training for all of their staff. This is one of the gold standard SUD treatment trainings that's out there in the community. And so we understand the court we're shutting down, but we do understand that that provider still provides a vital service to our community for SUD treatment. We regularly use them at adult parole and probation. So having them come in and provide that training to that provider just was very beneficial for everyone. It also will benefit the clients that are currently finishing out that program as well, just having that SUD curriculum available to those clients. So we have not been accepting any new clients. That is not new for us in terms of that. And then the Criminal Justice Commission, they just ask if we've had any recent assessments or evaluations on our treatment court. Because of the ramp down process, we have not done any. at this time, and they have actually kind of suspended that on their side for a little bit, but overall that just kind of provides a overview of where we are at with our adult treatment court. Because we have Judge Crutchley available, I will open up to him if he wants to provide any additional feedback in terms of that process and just kind of where we're at. So
Thank you,
Thank you.
Trevor. And Judge Ashby, you wanted me to go ahead?
Yes, please. I mean, you know all about this and have just done amazing work with this program. And I think, a question that people have is, when there's, such a need and, you and your team have done such good work, why is this program closing down?
So thank you, Judge Ashby, and Trevor, did a good job of kind of bringing us up to speed with regards to where we are. And it is really unfortunate that we are set to lose this program. As Trevor said, we currently now have 2 individuals left in the program. I anticipate that we would be able to graduate them within the next 60 or so days based on where they are. They're both in phase 4 and are working on the restoration projects, which I think should be finalized shortly, and some custody and parenting time provisions that would need to be in place prior to graduation. It's unfortunate that we can't continue the program because I think it does provide the kind of value to the community and the individuals that we in fact set out to achieve initially. The goals of the program at the time was to reduce crime, improve public safety, provide better treatment outcomes, protect the community, reduce recidivism, provide drug and alcohol and treatment to folks who suffer from substance use disorder, provide intensive case management, and obviously create productive citizens rather than ones that may be dependent on the system, and obviously to improve the lives of individuals in our community. And I think, part of what has happened is when we lost our treatment coordinator, we no longer able to provide that close relationship between the treatment coordinator and the judge who oversees the program, that's me. And we can't really run the program without a coordinator who, as the name suggests, coordinates everything everything with our participants and along with our providers. So, and in particularly the case management portion, where that was generally every week for a few hours, where the treatment provider would meet with the case manager along with the probation officer and discuss what the in-depth case plan would be for each participant, and then bring that case plan forward to the team, and then having the team and myself make a decision with regards to any interventions or sanctions, therapeutic intervention, all that. And we aren't necessarily able to do that effectively anymore. In addition, not only did we lose the treatment provider, but our treatment coordinator, but we also lost a treatment provider that could participate within our case management meetings, as well as within our team meetings at court, which is critical, because if we can't coordinate and do it instinctively and robustly with someone that is there, we have to wait for that to happen. And in treatment court, we need to be responsive. We need to be, we need to respond immediately to individuals when they are in crisis. And the best practices it tells us that when someone does something in treatment court, and if there's an intervention that needs to be done, we need to do that immediately or as soon as possible. And if there's a sanction to be imposed, it's best utilized if it's done immediately. And so without a coordinator and a treatment provider working in concert with us, it really deteriorates what we are trying to do. And it affects that. And, you know, from a program perspective, we don't ever want to do more harm than good. And we don't want to be guessing about what we're doing. And so we've been trying to fill that gap as best we can and be as responsive, but it's not the way to do it going forward. And so the thing that I think I looked at when we were discussing our way out of this is, you know, what does the best practices require of us to do at all times? And we are, you know, we are cognizant of that. And, you know, the treatment court model for drug court, you know, has 10 key components, and we're required to meet those to remain a viable treatment court program. And part of that is case management, right? And so if we're not doing effective case management, we're not really meeting that standard. And so that's where we are. It's kind of, it is disappointing, not kind of, it is disappointing to not be able to go forward. It is a need. You know, the drug epidemic isn't necessarily going away. We have fentanyl now, that's become, you know, a really problematic thing for us, well, across the country, but still particularly here in Central Oregon. I think I read something briefly this morning that there was a major fentanyl bust within our community recently. So it tells us that the problem is here. And so, you know, that is where we are. I'm sorely disappointed that we can't continue the program because of those issues. And, you know, not having some of our partners to be able to participate as well the way they would have is also something that we also take into consideration.
Thank you, Judge Crutchley. I wanted to add a few things. First of all, when Judge Crutchley and I were talking about the future of the adult treatment court, one of the things that, you know, I said, hey, you know, can we wind this thing up and transfer people to a standard supervised probation within the next 90 days? And Judge Crutchley said something to me that really struck a chord, and it is just in his character. And he said, you know, these people signed up for something, they committed to something, and we should honor that commitment and finish what we started. And so you could say, you know, why are we, you know, pouring all of these resources and time and attention into, you know, 2 individuals? And it's because, you know, as Judge Crutchley stated, we made that commitment, and these people are working incredibly hard to end, you know, what could potentially be, you know, generational addiction or chaos and dysfunction. And so I really appreciated his comments, and that's why you see that, you know, step down over time. There's no dispute that, you know, fentanyl has really changed the landscape for addiction and made it much more fatal. Fentanyl shows up in all types of drugs, counterfeit pills, things that I would just say that, you know, and maybe in the old days, you got what you paid for or what you asked for. So many drugs are cut with fentanyl, and the consequences of having, you know, laced drugs are fatalities. Measure 110 dramatically changed the landscape of the court's ability to have adult treatment court be attractive to individuals who might enter that court. Mr. Gunnels, our district attorney, knows this well. He's been, you know, with adult treatment court since day one. That started out as a family treatment court. It moved to an adult treatment court. And once Measure 110 swept out most possession offenses, the you know, the individuals who qualified for adult treatment court had a lot to lose. Many were on downward departures from prison, or a second downward departure, sometimes a third downward departure. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like Judge Crutchley said, he said, it's not about deserve, it's about, helping people escape addiction and get back on their feet. But there were just some tidal forces that really worked against and conspired against adult treatment court. The grant funding model was one of them, paying for some things, but not paying for other things. Our treatment providers have been fantastic, but they're also running businesses. And there are certain requirements for the adult treatment court. It requires basically a separate model, a separate program to be run by a provider, and that needs to be economically viable. And we struggled with the numbers in the adult treatment court to keep that economically viable. It may not be a big surprise, but Central Oregon is a very expensive place to live. That increasingly is the case. We had people ask us about housing allowances if they were to take a position. We did 3 recruitments for a program coordinator. I can't get too much into the details on that, but we don't do 3 recruitments for anything. And we simply could not find a qualified individual. And like Judge Crutchley said, we either, run an adult treatment court with fidelity to standards, or we have a drug court in name only. And he said something very important. It's not that you may just have a marginal program. It's very easy to create harm within an adult treatment court. Judge Crutchley knows the models, and then our past program coordinator knows it. He's much more educated and fluent in that treatment space, but I understand it well enough. If you put people on the wrong type of treatment and over supervise and get over involved, it can be more damaging. And so there's just a level of sophistication that comes with the players that we could not recruit and maintain. I know that's a lengthy explanation, but I know that this is an important topic, and it is unfortunate.
And PJ, one other thing that I would remiss if I didn't say it. I know when we transferred over to this kind of a hybrid model in terms of winding down, we lost our probation officer as well. We had a new probation officer come on, Janelle Combs, and I will tell you, she is superb. I mean, it's one of the other things that I think is a detriment to losing the program, because I think she just gets it. She's done an outstanding job in the program. I mean, it made this transition a whole lot easier, having someone like her step in. And so really appreciative of probation for putting someone of that quality in the program to allow us to transition and wind down. Obviously, the district attorney's office has always been an integral part of the program. Our DA, Steve Gunnell, he wasn't a DA when he started the program, but he could have simply had somebody else come in and finish up the program when he got elected and started to serve his position, but he stayed on. And that continuity, I think, was also important. And so really appreciate his commitment to the program and his office's commitment to the program. The sheriff's office has always been really committed to the program as well. Sheriff Nessel always shows up to our graduations. And so, we have really good resources in place, but we're missing some key components to make it all work the way it should.
Judge, thank you. I agree that it really hasn't been a failing of local partners. It's, there are some things that are just beyond our local control that couldn't be overcome. And again, I just want to thank, everyone who was part of that team and part of that history. And certainly Judge Crutchley. I don't know if a person could be more committed and have more energy than Judge Crutchley. I mean, truly an exceptional and compassionate person who's done a great job and did a great job of convincing me of what should have been obvious, that we should finish what we start. and completely and with full integrity to the commitment that those folks made. So it's good to have good colleagues around, because I learn more than I teach. But any questions for Trevor or Judge Crutchley? Judge Crutchley happens to be in a trial, and I really appreciate his time out right now. But any questions for the experts? All right, Judge Crutchley, I really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. I know that you're beyond busy. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And my pleasure joining you today. Take care.
You too. Trevor, I believe you are leading us through item number 5. Is that correct?
Yes, but before we move on to item number 5, Judge, can we please get a motion to move
Oh.
approval of the submission of the report to the Criminal Justice Commission?
Of course, thank you. Is there a motion to submit to approve and submit the report?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Chief Lewis. And second,
I second.
Oh, go ahead.
thank you. Nick Lelak, second, and any opposition? Thank you. The motion carries. Mr. Stevens.
Thank you. And so for item number 5, this is the second part of our reporting out for the Criminal Justice Commission. This is for our Justice Reinvestment Grant, and this is our semi-annual report for Q7 and Q8. It's attachment 3 of the documents that you were provided. And so I'll walk through briefly some of the items that we reported out to the Criminal Justice Commission this past for the past 6 months. Our program has been operating as designed and outlined, and we were actually excited because in April and May of 2023, adult parole and probation finished our remodel. And so for the first time, we were able to bring back some of our groups who have been virtual back to in-person services. So this was the first time for many of these clients that they've ever been involved in our services in person in terms of the groups that we offer. We offer cognitive-based therapy, which is CBT groups, which really focus on criminal thinking and just the way individuals think and kind of changing those patterns in order to affect criminal thinking. And so we were pretty excited to bring some of these services back to in-person. Because of the fact that we have individuals that live throughout Deschutes County, we have retained some of our virtual services, which we're very appreciative of, but it is also nice to have those in-person groups just because it creates a different group dynamic. I know our group facilitator, she was hired actually during the COVID pandemic, so she had never actually offered a group in person. So about 3 weeks ago, she offered her first in-person group, so she really enjoyed that. And so it's just nice having those services back. We are also finishing up a process with a technical assistance grant from the National Institute of Corrections in terms of gender responsive policy and practices. And so we will likely be anticipating some of the relaunch of gender specific cognitive-based therapy services, as well as some other organizational changes that come from that. So we're excited about that. The focus there is really looking at gender responsivity and how we can provide services for our female clients, ensuring that with the understanding that they may have different pathways into our system than male clients, and making sure we target those services so that we can affect change for those individuals. Our justice reinvestment clients include those that are on downward departures. So those are in lieu of prison, they get offered a downward departure. Our AIP clients, which is Alternative to Incarceration program, which those are releasing early, as well as our short-term transitional leave or STTL clients. Those are also clients that are releasing early. So we supervise those clients based on their risk and needs principles, and that's through either a LSCMI, which is a risk assessment, or a WARNA, which is a risk assessment for female clients. And so we've just been supervising those clients based on the risk in which they risk out at. We provide and we continue to provide transitional and sober housing options. Because Central Oregon remains such a difficult place, housing is one of the largest things that we provide through this program. And we really want to create some of that stability and barrier reduction for those clients so they can get engaged in those services, those SUD services, and really kind of work on those behavior change aspects that we're really asking them to work on. So we continue to provide our CBT therapy program, which is MRT, which is moral recognition therapy. And that's what I mentioned in terms of really addressing that criminal thinking and addressing those thinking errors and other things that come up and kind of reframing those so individuals understand how that can impact their risk in the community. So some program successes, as I mentioned, we're finishing up the technical assistance grant and we appreciate having this information. Our in-house MRT program remains one of the most significant and sustained programs for our JRP program. And we just relaunched some of those in-person services. In the first half of 2023, we completed 13 defendant assessment reports. And Judge Ashby and DA Gunnels could speak to this, but these are the reports that we provide to the court to kind of give an idea of where clients at that could be potentially entering our JRP program and could be being offered a downward departure. And it just provides information to the court really on their risk and needs and what kind of services, if they were coming into that program, we could offer them from parole and probation in order to help them be successful in that program moving forward. Looking at our recidivism, the data that's been released so far, it goes through the end of 2019 in terms of the cohorts because they manage it in 3-year cohorts. Our rates are, the new arrest rate is 53%, the new conviction rate is 44.4%, and the new incarceration rate is 15.3%. Each of these are a small improvement when you compare those to previous cohorts. So that does meet one of the targets of the Justice Reinvestment Program in that we're not showing an increase in terms of the recidivism because we have clients releasing from prison early or we're offering clients a downward departure in lieu of prison. So we're not seeing a increase there. And so we're hopeful that this gives some indication that some of the aspects of the program that we're utilizing are really kind of targeting those risk and needs profiles for those clients. In terms of 2023, we successfully completed 25 clients in the MRT program. That's a program that really focuses on criminal thinking. And we currently have 22 clients who are actively enrolled in this program. And so we would hope that this will continue to kind of correlate with those decreases in recidivism. One of the other major aspects of the JRP program is a reduction in prison population. So they really monitor our prison usage when reporting out. And so overall, Deschutes County prison usage has continued to remain below our 3-year baseline. If we're looking at the past 6 months, we're about 26% below our baseline figure, which was 1,727 months. So we're still well below that baseline figure. Males are right at 26% below and females are right at 26% below both of those individual baselines. So it's just a good indication that we're still remaining below that baseline and meeting that aspect of the Justice Reinvestment Grant Program in terms of what the expectations are for that program. So recently we had 12 probation revocations for drug, property, and driving offenses. Of this group, 4 were female and 8 were male. Of these 12, 3 of them were specifically GRP clients. And when looking at their cases, these clients were given multiple chances and ultimately they just ended up not engaging in the JRP program. So then the downward departure was revoked and they ended up going to prison is what happened in this aspect. In the same time period, we recorded 31 first sentence admissions for these same crime categories. So, but overall, the good news is that we remain below our baseline and we're still showing prison bed savings as compared to previous years. And we're really focused on keeping those clients with services that reduce barriers and that really focus on those aspects of criminal thinking that we have really targeted for their risk and needs. So overall, kind of moving on to our supplemental part of the program. I mean, before I get to the supplemental part, we also have continued our work with our community group. And this was a program that we have launched. It was called the Bridge Program. It was offered by the Fathers Group. And this group is a Black-led group, but it embraces collaboration and cross-cultural influences. The Justice Reinvestment Program really asked that we look into services that could target people of color and just make sure that we have some services available for those individuals. So we began the pilot of this program and we've had a few clients involved with this. What they do is they kind of provide a support structure for those individuals and try to connect them to community resources. We also have another similar partnership in the works. It's a new program. It's called First Light. And the goal of this program will be to really look at those culturally affirming community ties and just provide the individuals with that added support that they can be help them be successful on parole and probation and within their supervision. So we've also teamed up with the DA's office, and we're working with a outside consultant on our public safety equity plan. This is a part of our grant program. And so we have an external consultant that's selected for that, and our goal will be to hopefully have that completed by the end of December. In terms of our supplemental program, or this is the program that has funded a lot of our pretrial efforts over the past 2 years, and then the previous years before that, we continue to provide those services. The majority of those services are provided and coordinated with the DA's office and the sheriff's office. So they continue to work really closely to provide those services for clients. They are still continuing to use the VPRAE, but they've made some adjustments in order to account for changes in the services and also account for some changes that came out with Senate Bill 48. I did talk with Deputy recently that is managing that program, and currently the caseload is at 98, and with an average roughly around 100 people over the past few months. So at this time, he said that 81% of the clients are out of custody and in compliance. And over the lifetime of the program, 101 prison eligible cases have come through that program, and 77% of those have resulted in something other than prison. So just speaks to the success that they've been having with that program. With this program and with some changes from the legislator, we do anticipate maybe some changes through the court and the sheriff office in terms of pretrial services that we'll be offering. But once we have some updates about that, we'll provide more of those in the future. Just in terms of just some specific raw numbers for these past 6 months, how many program participants were granted downward departures? We had 22 new downward departures that went to one of our JRP caseloads or the Justice Reinvestment Program caseloads. And we had 103 downward departures in total over the past 6 months. And this just includes those that maybe didn't go on to one of the Justice Reinvestment caseloads because of their crime types, but they're still a downward departure in our community. So let's see. During the reporting period, we had 30 downward departures clients successfully complete probation, which is right around our average that we've been kind of seeing over the past couple of years. And so we just are excited to see that continue. And during the past 6 months, 55% of those people during the reporting period were in some form of treatment services. Now, somebody asked why this isn't higher. Sometimes because of the length those individuals are on supervision, many of those individuals have already completed treatment, so they would not be counted in those initial numbers. So 55% is actually pretty high. And so that kind of gives some indication of what that is. During the past 6 months, over 40% of these participants required some form of housing assistance. So that just speaks to the volume of housing services that we're having to ensure that we have available for those clients that are in this program. During the past 6 months, we had 100% of participants with a valid risk assessment tool, and this just guides their supervision and the case planning for those individuals. And during the past 6 months, about 10% of those individuals received some form of additional assistance. This could be things such as close for an interview, say they needed a cell phone card to update their minutes, or just other like barrier reduction or things that we can kind of provide to just make sure that this individual is able to complete things that are necessary for their supervision, or that may help them in reducing a barrier so that they can be successful for supervision. So as a part of this report as well, you will notice there are 4 reports from our victim service agency providers. And just a reminder for everyone that our victim service agency providers that were awarded grants include JBAR-J, CASA, Kids Center, and Mary's Place through Saving Grace. And they just provided some updates in terms of what their services they provide. I'll briefly provide some summaries for those. For JBAR-J, which was their housing, their anti-trafficking project, they provided 11 victims of human trafficking some support during this period. Their rental deposits were provided for 8 clients, and then housing retention in the form of 1 moved into a rental assistance was provided for 9 clients. 8 victims of trafficking and additional 8 family members moved into safe long-term housing during the reporting period for JBAR-J and the anti-trafficking project. For CASA of Central Oregon, they were able to train an additional 42 new CASA volunteers to serve children in foster care. And this resulted in 145 CASA advocates serving 84% of the 340 children in Deschutes County during this reporting period. For Kids Center, they were able to provide 310 children from Deschutes County comprehensive child abuse services assessments during the reporting period. And they anticipate the JRI funds fully covered the cost of 17 comprehensive child abuse evaluations. And so those are what the funds provided for Kids Center. For Mary's Place, they provided 78 unduplicated families and 129 children with 507 safe exchanges and 713 supervised visits. And they would define 78 of the adults as victims and all 129 children as victims as well. So a total of 270 total victims were served by Mary's Place during the reporting period. So that's what I have for you in terms of the summary for what we will submit to the Criminal Justice Commission for the JRP related grant for the 21-23 biennium. I'm open for any questions if anyone has any.
Trevor, did you get a chance to see Janice's question in the chat?
I did not. Let me pull up the chat 1 second. You know, Janice, I can look and pull before, see what I can, you know what I'll do is I'll look and pull that maybe for the next grant report to see if I can pull some data previous to, I think it'd be about 2016 to see if we can kind of compare those rates. So I'll look into that for sure.
And Trevor, do they give you benchmarks or targets?
They do not.
Okay.
And the recidivism, one thing with the recidivism measure is it includes everyone. So it's because they can pull out some of the JRP related crimes, but the way that the data is aggregated, it's really hard for them to pull out just those individuals who were involved with the program. But the good thing is that what they can measure is that they're not seeing a major increase. So the hope is that at least by releasing those individuals early, we're not seeing a major spike in the recidivism levels that some people may have thought might have happened. So, but I will look more into that and see what they can provide us and see if we can have any benchmarks or targets that maybe they can come up with. But as of right now, they haven't set anything specifically around the recidivism aspect.
Yeah, are they working with an evaluation partner on these grants? Like
They
helping you sort of demonstrate the outcomes as compared to, because you're reporting on an enormous amount of data, and I am sure you want to be able to make it meaningful. And I just don't know if you have a partner who's working with you to help you, make that data mean something in the scheme of things.
As of right now, they have not provided someone, and that's one of the things we've requested, and I know other counties have requested as well, that they reach out to maybe Portland State University or someone who could kind of come in, and they do provide like initial reports every few years about recidivism, but it's not specifically targeted to our individual programs. So it would be really nice if we could get that support on an individual level by each individual county, so then we can kind of look at that. But I will definitely note that for them as well when I submit that this is definitely something we would continue to seek out, because 3% of our funds do go to research. And so we would hope that they would target those funds to provide that technical assistance to really help the counties. But I will make sure we continue to make that suggestion. So
yeah. Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you.
And I'll answer a question that nobody asked, which is, what is a downward departure? So for those of you who don't know, you've made really good career choices, and I applaud you. Downward departure is, we sentence folks, adults, based upon essentially a grid block that looks at crime seriousness and criminal history. And based upon how somebody grids out, they may qualify for a prison sentence or a local county jail sentence. And so downward departure is an agreement between the defendant to plead and accept, and for the district attorney to offer a probationary sentence when it would have in fact been a go straight to prison sentence. So a person is on a downward departure, they'll be on probation. If they violate, there's a decent chance that a judge could send them to serve that presumptive sentence. So I just wanted to clear that up because it's meaningful. It's a significant shift in resources. It requires, supervision. These are people who either, have committed serious offenses that would send someone directly to, prison without much of a criminal history, or they have a history. So, these are thoughtful choices that have can have community safety impacts and certainly have significant costs with regards to the general fund in terms of housing people in Department of Corrections. So Trevor, you probably need a motion to approve the semi-annual report for the GRI. Is that correct?
I do. It looks like Nick may have a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Judge. I've been in my position now for almost 2 years, and I feel like I'm still learning a lot about all of these issues. And I see on page 2 of the report, I'm just curious, it says overall we are higher, goes back to the recidivism question, related matter. Overall, we are higher than the state average for all measures of recidivism, but Deschutes County has always trended higher when compared historically to the state. I'm just curious, do we have any understanding of why that is? I'm curious, I just don't know.
There's a lot of different things that go into in terms of just, the level of policing in our community. Just those are some of the individual things that go into a recidivism rate. But if you look back, what's interesting historically is Deschutes County has just always trended higher in those areas. So I don't have any, I don't know if DA Gunnels or any of the individuals from the police department have any other ideas, or maybe Judge Ashby, but it just, there's so many different things that go into recidivism. It'd be hard to kind of pull out very specific things of why Deschutes County has trended higher for those individual rates. But just looking when the historical average of why we look back for that is just so we understand kind of where our baseline that we're being compared to is a little bit higher than the baseline that, say, if you were comparing to the statewide, just because we've always been a little bit higher. So that just kind of helps for context there. But I'll see if DA Gunnels or someone else maybe has some feedback around that.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's largely based on the level of policing, the attitude of policing, and the skill level of policing, and we have higher than average or better than average policing in Deschutes County and in Central Oregon. And in some other areas of the state, there is, let's say, less aggressive policing on low-level offenses, especially. And so that skews the numbers.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Other questions for Trevor? All right, is there a motion to approve the JRI report?
I'll motion to approve the report as given.
Thank you,
Stop.
Donna. Second,
I'll second.
thank you. And any objection to approval? Very well, motion carries. And Trevor, I believe that brings you to victim services and the grant application.
Yes, so I just wanted to give Lipsick an update of where we're at. The deadline for the next biennium of Justice Reinvestment Grant Funds for Deschutes County closed last week. And in total, we received 5 applications. So we received an application from Kid Center, JBAR-J Anti-Trafficking Project, CASA of Central Oregon, Mary's Place, and In Our Backyard. So we were just starting the review process for that. I just wanted to thank DA Gunnels, OIA Joseph Mabanga, Donna Mills, and Commissioner Phil Chang, and we have started that process. They will be reviewing applications over the next couple of weeks, and we will come together with a recommendation to Lipsick at the September meeting. But just an update, we had anticipated about $160,000 in funds, and how it kind of came out is there will be $187,239 in funds available for victim service agencies. So we will have an update for everyone in September, and then at that time we'll determine how best to award those funds for the next grant cycle.
Trevor, thank you. Trevor, I'm strongly considering giving you a used motorcycle helmet that I have and maybe getting you a jacket. I'm not encouraging you to ride. I just don't want anything to happen to you because you
thank
do
you.
such a nice job reporting. And so just wear it around, tell me what styles you like and we'll get you set up.
Sounds good. Thank
Really
you, Judge.
appreciate your work. This brings us to the always exciting topic of other business. As if anybody has anything for the good of the order from their agency or accomplishments or questions or concerns, the floor is open. As usual, you all have nothing to report. It's good to see everybody. Really appreciate everyone joining us this afternoon. And with that, we will conclude the meeting. Thank you. I hope you all have a nice week.
Thanks, everybody.